Did you know what a prepress technician is? What they do? Honestly, I didn't either, until I became a prepress technician. Welcome to Stories from Prepress, where I go into stories about customers, tips and tricks about how to send design print files to a printer and make their job a little bit easier, and honestly yours too, because then you won't have to go back and forth and back and forth. I don't know what to say next. Today I'll be talking about what a prepress technician is, and I'll also be drawing too, so don't mind me. A prepress technician is part of the whole scheme of the prepress and a prepress technician is basically what I like to call a file detective that makes things look good. What really I do is I look at PDF files. Quite often they're just PDFs, and make sure they follow and adhere to our pre-flight checklist. So a pre-flight checklist is, if you want to think about a pilot who has a checklist before they take off, they have to go through that to make sure they're ready to take off. Essentially, that's what we have as prepress technicians as well. At least for my company. I speak for my company pretty exclusively because I haven't had experience from another company so far. So, a disclaimer, I will not be naming names because of non-disclosure agreements that I'm sure are plenty in this industry. So I will be renaming my coworkers, customers, if names need to be had at all in the stories that I'll be telling, so that we're all good, no one is breaking the agreement, especially me, and I will just be telling stories and talking throughout, just drawing and having fun. So, back to the prepress technician job. That is, quite honestly, one of the most important jobs, in my opinion, for the printing industry, because we keep the standards of the files, the integrity of the files. We make sure that the files are ready to be printed, whether that be going on a press, so that would need to then be imposed, and also for digital format files, we make sure that they're ready to print, and then they get approved by the customer, and then it gets printed from there. So there's, quite honestly, a heavily domino effect in our, I say our, but also most of the printing industry as well. So if the customer doesn't send files for, I don't know, several days, then it won't get printed, or we won't be able to touch it in prepress because we don't have a file to look at. So it really is quite an impacted industry, where if one thing takes longer, or if the customer doesn't get his files, it's going to be delayed quite significantly, depending on how long they do or don't send us files. So my part in that whole domino effect is to make sure all of the things check off our pre-flight list and then send it back to the customer service person. In my position, I do not impose the pieces to be sent to a press. What impositioning is, essentially, is laying out, so this is a piece of paper, and we have 150 of these, let's say, versions of this piece of paper. The imposition guy or gal will then place them on the larger sheet of paper, however many, like side by side, and however many this way and vertically as well on that sheet of paper, so then the press guys can run that and have multiples on a sheet. That's how they end up getting those massive sheets with many versions, or the same version just duplicated on that sheet, so that they can run as efficiently as possible. And so then if the imposition guy, because we only have guys who imposition at our company at the moment, if they don't get the file, you get the gist. We are delayed because of that. And so after it gets impositioned and all set up, and these are jobs for press, what was I saying? So the imposition guys, after impositioning the file, will then run plates for the press. And once the press has them, they get the ink ready. Usually there will be files with just a CMYK, so 4 colors, 4 plates. That's what they'll get to be able to run the job. And once they run the job will need to be then cut down. And once it's cut down, whatever the job is, it will need to be either saddle stitched if it's a book, or assembled if they're like multiple pieces in a job that then need to be put together. So that will go to hand bindery to be assembled, and then it will get shipped out to the customer. And that is the pretty much round trip of a PDF from the customer to the customer service to pre-press to the imposition guys, and then all the way to the press, from the press to finishing, and which finishing is also considered part of hand bindery. So hand bindery will then handle the job, and then once hand bindery handles the job, then the mailing and shipping personnel will take the job from there and get it out the door. Oh, also too, I forgot to mention, we do in-house mail inkjetting. So that pretty much is placing the indicia or variable data for customers that will be directly mailed the printed piece. So there's quite a lot of moving parts in my specific company. Other companies have different services, so it looks a little bit different. But essentially, that's kind of grain scheme, how many hands it has to go through to get printed, all the way from the customer to getting out the door, and either to the customer or to whoever the pieces are being mailed to. So a lot of hands exchanging files and printed pieces and content, and so it really takes an army to get all of these pieces out the door, and to have an excellent printed piece is being able to be detail oriented all along the way. I know I miss details at times, so there's no exception to anyone in the chain missing details. I know sometimes there have been jobs where it's gotten to the customer and they notice the details after changing hands through the whole process, and then we notice the details, or they notice the details. So mistakes are made, even though so many people end up seeing the job through the whole process. But most of the time we do a really good job in what I think. So that is sort of an overview of what a prepress technician does, and the functioning of a print company. When I say print company, the company I come from, of which I'll leave unnamed, is about 100 employees and like 5 or 6 different departments at least. I could be missing some, but that's how it's a fairly large company comparatively to the ones in the area. We have a lot of mom and pop shop kind of printers, so their capabilities are more print on demand. You walk in, they print it, and you walk back out kind of things. So we are the largest printer in the area, town at least, and so we have quite a large capability for prints, sizes and quantities, and just our different aspects that we offer for printing. So it's a pretty elaborate system, so it can be kind of confusing at sometimes, but honestly, once I started my position about a year and a half ago, I quite honestly fell in love with it because I'm a file detective. I get to look at files, and when I mean files, I mean you run the gambit really of some pretty atrocious files for whether it's books or mailing pieces like postcards or mailing envelopes. I mean, really anything you can think of that's mailed or printed, we have touched or done or processed through our plants. So really, it's also the variety, I think, that has really kept me on my toes, but also it's so fun to learn how to handle the different files of, let's just say, a double gatefold brochure or a perfect bound book is something else we do as well. So it's really cool to see the vast variety of files and job types that we get. Yeah, it's just crazy, kind of mind-blowing. It was on that note too, I have a coworker who joined Prepress about a year ago or so, and he came from a company of which will also be unnamed, that they essentially just printed books. And so when he came, he was pretty blown away at the variety of jobs that we run through our plant. And so he was like, oh my gosh, you guys are crazy, kind of thing for a while. But it was fun to see that new perspective again of, yeah, we do run, like, it's just wild, the variety that we run through our presses, and also digital printers as well. But it's just so fun to do it because no job is the same, no day is the same, because you're always working on something different unless it's a longer job, which is also really nice too. There's some jobs that take 5-10 minutes, or there's other jobs that the processing will take hours or days to complete. So it's really, you never know where you're going to pick up with a job. I sometimes say, what can of worms am I opening today? Or eat from job to job. I'm like, I don't know what I'm picking up, but it's going to be something, and job security. So hey, it's really nice. So also funny too, there's so many stories of which I'll also be sharing about just some of the jobs that have come through and I've processed, and just laughing with the customer service people, and yeah, all good things. But yeah, thank you for listening in, and I hope that I can continue sharing about the printing world and my experience from my company, and I am so thankful to be able to share these stories with you. Thank you. Bye.